So I've been going on adventures in Python, and more specifically, I've been trying to get Python and Blender to talk to each other, which has been a pain in the ass. And this tutorial is meant to help people that don't want the issues that I've had. So specifically, I've been writing kind of scripts and add-ons that almost have nothing to do with Blender, which is going to sound weird, but it increases its functionality, the kinds of things I'm going to show you, and it doesn't kind of work with vanilla Blender. So first of all, let's talk about what we're doing. So here is a very basic script. You may or may not be able to read it, but the main thing I want you to notice is at the very top, I have some import statements. They say import CV2. That stands for computer vision. CV is computer vision, and then import something else, and then a whole bunch of stuff. When I run this script, you can see all of the sudden we have a window that looks like it has nothing to do with Blender, and it is displaying a red circle. I mean, it's not a useful program, but this is something that you're not used to being able to do with Blender. You can usually add in cubes and all kinds of stuff. So for example, if I was to add in a cube, let's do a boring script. So here's the thing for adding in a cube. It will just populate. You can just copy that. And as long as you type in import BPY, which means use Blender Python, that's what BPY is, you type that in, and then you just run the script, it will add in a cube. That's fine, but you can't get to the point where you're doing more interesting stuff, like things that go beyond Blender. In fact, let me show you kind of where you can take this, and then we'll get to the point of this tutorial. So here is a script that I've compiled into an executable that I'm working on. It will interface with Blender. So just like with the other one, you have a window, except this one I've added so much more functionality. You can scale it up. You can type in something like CG Matter tutorial, and what it's going to do is it's going to scrape YouTube to find CG Matter tutorials. Okay, fine, weird. I'm going to click one of them. It's going to take a second to load because it's going to fetch the video stream. And then you can see it's actually playing a YouTube video where I can skip around. And now you can see I'm showing you how to do things inside of Blender. I can move this around. I have little corner widgets that let me position it. And we have recommended videos if for some reason you want to watch a Blender guru video, which you can do. But the whole point of this is going to be to integrate Blender with YouTube, so I can watch YouTube on the side here while also doing my stuff in Blender. We can move this out of the way. We can make it even more transparent, so it's a more seamless experience where you can go between different workspaces and you always have Blender. Okay, so there's just an idea, but the point is we want to be able to make more complicated scripts. And that is not going to be possible until we can import in different packages. So if, for example, I had a script that relied on importing in separate code, import in, I'm just going to write some random stuff, right? And then I hit, well, let's just have it be some letters here. And then I hit run. We're going to run into the issue where you would have as well with the red circle script where it says no module named this, right? No module named awasafada. Of course, it's because it doesn't exist, but for you, you're going to get the same thing with import CV2. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to import in Python packages or modules that do not come with Blender's Python. Okay, which will let you do all kinds of things like the YouTube player. So here's the basic crash course. I'm assuming you don't know this, which is why I'm going from first principles. So Python is a thing you can download that lets you run code. It's called Python code, and when you hit enter or compile, what it's basically going to do is it's going to take your code, run it through that Python interpreter, that's what it's called, that you downloaded, and then it's going to run the script. So your Python code is useless unless you run it through an interpreter. The issue is you can have as many interpreters as you want, different kinds of interpreters that do different things. And just because you've imported in OpenCV on one doesn't mean it's in the other. And this is specific to Blender because, as you can see, Blender has Python integration. Blender has its own Python that it uses. So even if you can follow a Python tutorial for importing in different modules, it's not going to be helpful unless you're doing it for Blender's Python interpreter. So now the question is, where is Blender's Python interpreter and how can we mess with it. So generally, it's not going to be the same for everybody, but generally the answer is you go to your main drive, you go to program files, you go to Blender, iVersions 3.6 and 4.0. If it's 3.6, you go into 3.6, 3.6, and then you'll see a Python folder. If you have 4.0, same thing. Go to 4.0, 4.0, and we have a Python folder. And inside that bin folder is where we have this execute. This is what is reading our Python code. And this is the one specific to Blender, okay? If I open up command prompt, if you're on Mac, it's terminal. If it's Linux, you have your own terminal. If I go to command prompt, I have a Python already installed because I just did it. It's not Blender's Python, it's mine. And you can see if I type in Python, it opens up Python. It's version 3.10.6. And I can run commands like print hello. And that's just a tiny script that prints hello. I can also import things like CV2 if I install them, okay? But if I import in something random, we'd get the same kind of issue. Notice that this is also running Python, right? I could write print hello and then also import things in here, okay? So these are both using Python, but the thing is they're using different versions of Python, okay? So a good way to see this and then use Blender's Python is originally when I open command prompt, you can see I can type something in like trigger Python and then tell me the version. So again, I'm using 3.10.6. But if I want to use Blender's Python interpreter, which presumably is different, we need to lead command prompt to look at that one. To do that, go to this folder like we talked about, and we are going to right click, copy address as text, type in CD for change directory, and paste that in. So I'm saying don't look at the C drive users owner, but instead look at this folder, change directory to this folder. And now when I type in Python, it will specifically look at the Python in this folder. Python version, this is 3.10.13, which is different than 3.10.6. Okay, so you can see it's using a different version of Python. By the way, if you can't find this, if it's not in this folder that you know where it is, I'll put this in the description. It's a little command that you can use. It's a little Python command. What it does is it imports in, again, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to import things that aren't included in Python. SYS system is included in Python. It's going to import system, which is going to let us print. It's going to let us write where the Python file is. That's basically what that means. So I type this in here, and it will tell you exactly where your Python is. Same folder. Okay, what's the point? The point is now we can do things inside of Blender's Python. What is it we want to do? It's installing different modules that let us do weird things with Blender. Now, if you know anything about Python, you know the way we end up doing this is we run commands called pip, install, and then opencv or whatever it is. The thing is, by default, it shouldn't work with Blender unless your Blender comes with pip, which is Python package installer Python. I don't know exactly what it is, but unless it comes packaged with it, which I don't know if it always does, you're going to run into issues. So on Blender's Python interpreter, this specific one in this folder, we're going to need to install this thing that lets us install other things, and then we do that. A lot of steps. So to do that, go to your Chrome or whatever, and this website is just what you get when you say, like, how do I install pip, that thing that lets us install stuff. You're going to get to a page like this. You're going to get Linux, Mac, Windows. I'm going to use the Windows version, and there's a bunch of ways to do this. So one way you can do this is you can use this command, which has a package installer that's guaranteed to let you get the other package installer. We're not going to worry about that. Instead, we are literally going to open the file. This nonsense is basically the code for get pip. I'm just going to right-click, save as, and this is our get pip Python file. And I'm just going to put it in the exact same place, right? So I'm going to put it in Program Files, Blender Foundation, 4. You could put it anywhere, but I'm going to put it here. It is in our Python folder. You don't have permission to save this location. If you get something like that, it should be because Blender is running, so you can't like overwrite it. Or if you do have that issue, you could run administrator. Either way, I'm going to save it to the desktop and then just kind of do it manually. yeah, you need administrator permissions. Okay, so now we have our Blender Python interpreter with this get pip script inside the same folder. So now if we are in this directory, again, copy address as text, cd here if you're not there already. Now I can write something like Python. Again, that's saying use Blender's Python interpreter, the one in this folder. And for this Python, I'm going to tell it to run getpip.py. That's what we just downloaded. It's .py because it is a Python file, as you can see right here, .py. Getpip.py. So it's going to say, use this Python to run the thing. You hit enter. I already have pip installed, but you're going to see some stuff happen. It may look different from mine. So it uninstalled pip because I already had it, and then it reinstalled it because maybe you wanted an updated version. Okay, so now we have pip that can work inside of Python. What does this mean? This means that we can now install and uninstall certain modules. So for example, I can say Python. Again, that's the Python that we're referencing in the folder. We're going to type in -m. I found it to be necessary. Basically, it's going to say, if we type in pip, it's going to say, run this pip thing, but run it as a script. May or may not be necessary. I just do it. Pip install, and then something like OpenCV Python. I already have this installed. You may not. You probably don't. So what this is saying is for Blender's Python, install using this pip thing that makes installing easy, CV2, which is called OpenCV, which is computer vision. Okay? I hit enter. It's basically going to tell me requirement already satisfied because I already installed it myself. But to make sure we are up to speed, I can also run pip uninstall OpenCV-Python. And I'm going to say yes, uninstall it. And now we're at the same page. Okay? So again, the command is Python-m pip install OpenCV-Python. And you're going to see now all kinds of things are going to be happening. So successfully installed. And if you navigate around, depending on where Blender saves your modules, you will see it. Kind of depends on where you save it to. For me, I think it saves on a different directory, actually. Either way, now we have that. You will see that my script, which, by the way, is AI generated, so we'll try to make something more interesting in a second, but I just want to show you. Now if I run import CV2, you're going to see it just works. Again, if I was to undo this, and I might have to close Blender to do that, so again, Python, I'm using Blender's Python-m pip uninstall OpenCV-Python. It probably won't let me. Let's see if it lets me. Seems like it did it. Let's try it again. Failed to remove contents. Okay, that's because Blender's open. Let's just try that one more time. So you can't overwrite things as they're running. Pip uninstall OpenCV-Python. So now it will successfully uninstall it, maybe. The point I'm trying to say is if you don't have it, Blender's going to have issues. So let's try this. I'm going to try import CV2. And now we're getting an error because all of a sudden we do not have CV2. Okay, so last time I'm going to do this. I'm going to do Python-m pip install OpenCV-Python. We'll put it on here. And our script also relies on a module called numpy, which may or may not come with Blender's Python. So now it's going to do things, it's going to install, you might see some downloading, and we are good to go. So again, the core principle is find your interpreter and then run commands off of that specific interpreter. So now what we should get is if we run the script, and I'll show you how to make different scripts in a second. Now if we run the script, we get something like that. What possible sponsorship could this video have? Well, it is a lamp that you can put on your desk. Check it out. It has a little power button. What does the power button do? It illuminates. And you think that's it? No. You can charge it so it's completely, battery powered. It's kind of dimmable in the sense that you can pick its brightness or its dimness. It comes with a second shade, so you unscrew this top thing. Super simple stuff. Super simple stuff. Okay, we got the new one. How much is there to say about a lamp? I don't know. But it is one that is sent to me to talk about. So lamps, I will legitimately use this. Maybe you can too, if you're in the lamp market. Okay, so now that we did all our installation stuff, let's just make something. So for example, let's say make a Python script that displays the image, and let's just like get an image from the internet. So I'm gonna type in Ton Rosendahl, the guy who initially made Blender. So now this is going to use more than just OpenCV2. It needs to scrape things out of the internet. So we'll see if it likes that. So I'm going to say make a Python script that displays the image, that's the URL, by opening a CV2 window. And let's see how it likes that. So it may need to do even more packages. Might already have access to the internet. Who knows? But the point is, import CV2. That is the main thing I want to do. I think it's going to give an error, but we'll find out. So we'll do scripting. It already has CV2, so that should not be the issue. I hit run. It runs the script, but it does not show anything because it doesn't have access to it. And if we go to the system console, it says failed to load image. Okay. So I'm just going to modify my code. Failed to load image. Have it look for that image URL from the internet. And now it's going to add a couple other things. I'm going to hit accept. But you can see now we're using another thing that we're probably not going to have, URL library. Well, let's just try it. If we don't, we know how to fix it. I'm going to put this in here. Okay, NP is not defined. That is because we don't have numpy. But we can actually just kind of feed in this error and have it fix it. Okay, so now we have an updated script, and you can see how fast it is to iterate if you're using AI code. Okay, there we go. That is our program. It's kind of weird, but that's what it does. And now we can do something a bit fancier. Let's say have this script instead download the image. Okay, wait. Use Blender BPY to load this image into Blender. So now we're trying to do some Blender integration, and we're going to see what it does. So it adds BPY. It's going to it was trying to get rid of CV2 because we're not displaying it anymore. So I'm just going to try this a couple more times. Okay. So instead, we can just Control-Shift-I, which will open a chat window. And let's see if we can get this one to do it. Okay. So this is a bit of a different code, but it doesn't use CV2, which is fine. So I'm just going to copy it, put this here, and now it should work, minus maybe not having a library. But I think it does have the library. Okay, so we're going to put this here. I'm going to run the script, and allegedly, it should have downloaded the image. Let's see. So I go to my Blender file, I go to images, and it does have something. It does have something for us here. So now, you know, this might seem stupid, but what this really is we just made a script that would let the user put in a URL, and then it fetches the image for you. So let's just like generalize this one more time. Let the user put in the URL through a text window. So now we're just taking it and saying instead of giving it one URL, the user can pick the URL. Okay. So this should basically make a panel, if I understand this correctly. Let's see. Please note that blah, 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 blah. In Blender, you would need to implement this function. Please implement it and give full code. So I'm basically trying to tell it to make us basically a little add-on. Okay, here we go. So now it's making a operator. So it's going to be, it should kind of look like a window inside the 3D viewport that lets us do this, it seems. But let's try it. So I have my new code. I'm going to run it through Blender, and hopefully it will work. I'm going to hit run. Seems to have no issues, and as you can read, it's going to make a panel inside View 3D as a tool. Okay, let's see. So inside of tool, there we go. We have a load image from URL. So I can click this button, and it doesn't work because it's just a button that doesn't let us load anything. This should have a text box for us to put in the URL, unless I am totally misunderstanding it. So basically it's trying to import in a URL that doesn't really exist because it never like asked us for it. So now hopefully it makes like a bit of a text box that lets us do this. And of course, if you know how to code more so with Python, you could write this yourself. Okay, let's try running it. Okay, great. So now we have a little text box for our image URL. Let's try to do Google Images. Gonna be boring. Soccer ball. Gonna find a soccer ball that I like. I'd assume it has to be Blender compliant, so like a JPEG or a PNG or something. I'm gonna put in the URL here that it does not let me. Okay. This shows the text box, but doesn't let a user type anything in. We're getting closer. Can't say I'd be much faster at this myself, but the whole point of this is to just get code working that does kind of weirder things than our normal kind of Blender add-ons. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to overwrite the script, and now we can type stuff in. Beautiful. So hopefully it works. I'm going to take this URL for soccer ball. I'm going to paste it in. Load image from URL. Indeed, something has downloaded. Image editor. Soccer ball. We made an image installer. Main thing I want you to take away from this video. Where are we? We are here. Main thing I want you to take away from this video is Blender has its own Python interpreter. You can tell that Python interpreter to do specific things, and with that, you can do kind of harder operations with your Blender scripts, like using the internet, for example. So there you go. If you want more stuff and you want to support what I do and get access to files and all that, there's a link below for Patreon. What you can get there is early access to tutorials. You can get project files, about 4 years worth. I'll also include this script that we made, why not? And also some exclusive tutorials that I made in the past. So either way, if you like what I do, you want to see more behind the scenes that you do not have access to on YouTube, go to Patreon. Thank you for watching.